Silent Hill F. The F stands for fainting. Welcome to Cam's Warp Room. In my previous video, I talked about whether the Silent Hill 2 remake was worth playing if you're scared of horror games. This time, we're looking at the most recent release in the series, Silent Hill F, which is a spin-off set in Japan. Is it worth buying and playing if horror games aren't your thing, or should you give it a pass? Let's find out. We'll start with the story. It's the most important aspect of Silent Hill F by far, and that becomes clear even with the default options when you first boot up the game. Combat is automatically set to story mode, while the puzzles are set to hard. The developers knew exactly what audience they were catering to. People don't play Silent Hill for the combat, they play it for the narrative experience, putting together the plot, piece by piece. Well, that's what I've learned from others anyway. I'm by no means an expert on this series, but with that in mind, I had high expectations going in, and you know what? It mostly met those expectations. Silent Hill F, like Silent Hill 2, has a slow burn of a tale that builds up the psychological dread over the course of its 9 or so hours. It doesn't jump scare you left, right and centre, but I'd say the beginning of the game is a bit more scary than Silent Hill 2's, which I'll get to in a bit. The main character here is Shimizu Hinako. Hinako has a few friends, but her relationships with them are strained and form the basis for a lot of the conflict you'll encounter later. The cinematics are great, but please keep the voice acting on Japanese. I tried switching to English at one point and it just didn't feel right. And as far as I can tell, the Japanese voice actors in this game are really good. They've got great emotional heft when it matters. The cinematography is a bit more standard early on compared to Silent Hill 2's creepy angles, but they play around with it a bit more as you progress, and by the end of the game I came away quite impressed. The plot itself goes in some wild directions, and I do mean wild to the point where the scares kind of disappeared in favour of wanting to know what would happen next. But there's one aspect of the story that left me disappointed. Do I think the story is worth playing through yourself? Yes. Disappointments aside, it's an emotional tale with some fantastic moments that I do think are better experienced by playing yourself rather than watching a YouTube video. But let's move on to the gameplay now. I mentioned earlier that Silent Hill F's intro is scarier than the beginning of Silent Hill 2. This fog monster, for example, bloody hell, it's like something straight out of a Japanese horror flick. It certainly gets the heart pumping, and then after you give it the slip, you encounter these horrifying mannequin things. Now, I don't know whether it's just me, but the design of these creatures is far creepier to me than the base enemies in Silent Hill 2. I think it's the unnatural jerky movements, the uncanny faces. I haven't watched any of the Ju-On movies because screw that, but I have seen clips, and while this isn't an exact match for a crawling, gurgling ghost girl, it feels pretty damn close to that sort of horror. I spent the first 3 hours of this game getting chills every time I encountered one of these damn things. But you know what sucks even more? At first you don't have a weapon, so you have to run away from them with no chance of dispatching them, and then you find one in a confined house and you have to dodge it while figuring out which door the key belongs to, and no thank you. So you can probably imagine my relief when I saw this cutscene about 48 minutes into my playthrough. Man, I've never been so happy to see a tetanus riddled pipe. And this is where the combat begins. Silent Hill F is a purely melee focused experience. There are no guns or ranged weapons of any kind. As a result, they've expanded the melee gameplay quite a bit compared to Silent Hill 2. You can perform light attacks and heavy attacks, but there are also focus attacks which happen when you hold down the left trigger for a certain amount of time. When you press the light attack button after charging, Hinako can pull off a powerful strike that does a lot of damage. Performing a focus attack does drain your sanity though, which is shown by this flowery bar above your health. Lose all your sanity and anything that would have depleted it will instead deplete your health, so you gotta be careful. There's also a stamina bar, which means you can only perform so many attacks before Hinako needs to recover her breath. This ratchets up the tension because by default, Hinako doesn't have much stamina at all. There's a good chance you'll accidentally run out of breath right as a mannequin comes at you with a blade, and that makes combat pretty tense. But if you do manage your stamina and sanity effectively, you can pull off some cool tricks like perfect dodges and counters. Wait, what's this? Is that a durability gauge? Yeah, Silent Hill F features durability. It is a horror game after all. Every single weapon you pick up can break, and they have different levels of durability depending on the type. So, for example, a sickle will break much quicker than a steel pipe. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. That's more frustrating than scary, and yes, you would be right, but the game also gives you weapons when you need them, as well as toolkits, which are consumable repair items. If your steel pipe is about to break, you can use a toolkit on it to recover a significant amount of durability durability. However, at that point, you've got to wonder why durability is even a thing. Why did they introduce it when they just give you enough weapons and toolkits anyway? I don't know, but I have to admit, when you're in the heat of combat and your steel pipe breaks, leaving you with a tiny sickle as backup, that can feel pretty horrific. Okay, actually, I think I answered my own question. I do have one other problem though. Hinako feels a bit stiff to control. I know that's supposed to be because she has no combat training, but I do think the developers could have made her a tad nimbler, especially when it comes to dodging. I would say that was it in terms of combat, but the game does substantially change things up at a certain point. I won't go into spoilers, but just know that although it'll make you do a double take, it actually works for plot reasons and serves as some much needed catharsis, and that's as much as I'll say on that. Right, what else can I talk about here? There are consumables that restore your health, sanity and stamina, which is nice. You can also find a ton of notes and bits of lore scattered around, which are always satisfying to read. Hokura shrines are where you'll save your game and eventually level up your health, stamina and sanity. You'll also be able to increase the amount of charm slots you have. Charms can be found throughout the game world and give Hinako little buffs that make combat easier. Oh, the puzzles! If you put the puzzles on hard mode, be prepared to look up a guide because my goodness, they are hard. This scarecrow bit was a bloody nightmare. I can't say what they're like on the easier difficulty because I didn't check, but they're probably a lot easier. I also want to mention the visuals and sound design. This game looks so damn good. It's built on Unreal Engine 5, so there are stutters, and the game did crash twice during my playthrough on PC, but if you ignore those engine issues, the visual design of the game is tremendous. Hinako's hometown is foggy, abandoned and rich with detail, ripped straight out of 1960s Japan. The other world, meanwhile, is dark and sinister, modelled on Japanese shrines. Konami apparently wanted this game to be 100% Japanese horror, and I think they accomplished that. The sound design is great too, but I prefer Silent Hill 2's soundtrack in terms of creepiness. It's just personal taste. Still, there are distant creaks and clangs here, the clacking of mannequins, the wails of tortured souls, and it makes for a great atmosphere that is indeed scary for the first few hours. So, Silent Hill F. Is it worth playing through to the end if you're usually scared of horror games? In my opinion, yes. There comes a point later where the scares essentially disappear in favour of the story, which will make sense when you get there, and while some horror fans might not like it, I think for us scaredy cats the overall plot is good enough to keep playing. It's not like the horror disappears either, it's just that you no longer become afraid of it. At least that's how it was for me, but again that serves the story. It'll make sense when you get there. Silent Hill F is about facing your doubts and fears and growing from the experience. I really enjoy playing this game. I think it's great despite my niggles with the combat and one aspect of the story. To be honest, those problems might not be problems at all to someone else. Everything is subjective, but my overall opinion is that the game is definitely worth playing whether you're into horror games or not. Actually thinking about it, it might be a great first Silent Hill game if you've avoided the series until now. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I think I'm going to take a little break from horror games for a bit, but I'll definitely come back to the genre at some point. Oh, and if you haven't watched my video on Silent Hill 2 yet, you can do so here by clicking on the thumbnail. Have a great day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.